Right Honourable Gentleman, the member for Kingston and Surbiton, and my honourable friend, the member for Aberdeen South, who have done a fantastic job just getting us here for this debate today so that we can make representations on behalf of our constituents. And I too want to pay tribute to the Minister Stride, who has been very helpful in all of my queries, responding to my constituents, not always to their liking, Madam Speaker, of course, but he has always been very available, and I want to pay tribute to him and hope that he is as accommodating today as he has been up to this point. The honourable member for South Suffolk, who's not in his place anymore, made reference to people using public services, and therefore they need to pay for them. And if you're talking about evasion versus avoidance, then of course he's absolutely right. But of course, private sector self-employed people, contractors, have a different regime of tax than people who work with PAYE. And of course they have a different structure, so they will look to see if they can make the best use of their tax situation, because they don't get sick pay and they don't get holiday, and someone isn't paying their pension for them. So of course they're going to be looking for the most efficient way to deal with their tax. And some of these schemes have been shown to be that for them. And of course they ask the questions. Of course they ask the questions. And we all know that they ask the questions. There are very few people that we think that are caught up in this deliberately went out of their way to avoid tax. I will.
My honourable friend beginning way, and I certainly would endorse what he said about the Minister, who has been extremely receptive, and we hope that he is going to take action. Is he aware that many of these people are well into their late 50s and many over 60, and have got no chance of ever recovering their financial position? And some of my constituents specifically asked the revenue whether everything was in order and correct and proper, and they were told categorically it was, and yet they allowed them to take out future schemes in future years.
My honourable friend makes a very good point. That is exactly what my constituents have been saying to me, and some of those my constituents are nearing retirement with absolutely no chance of paying back what they are told they are owed. And furthermore, they tell me, and I hope the Minister will confirm or not, that these schemes still exist, that people are still promoting schemes very similar to this. And if that is the case, then it's incumbent on the HMRC and the government to be shutting down the schemes and going after the people that did them. I will.
I'm very grateful to the honourable member for giving way. He makes an excellent point, which is that you can't just treat people, and I have a great number of constituents who are very distressed about this, as people who have just made... You can't approach them in a technical way, because this is people's real lives. And that the Treasury must bear some culpability, given that they have at least allowed these schemes to take place, to be used, when everyone else is acting in good faith investing in them.
He's absolutely right, and of course I think that we are finding a consensus across the House that we all agree with that. And people did ask these questions. They were convinced by people that promoted these schemes that sometimes it was the only thing they could do, but that they were legal. And they asked those questions, and some of them asked those questions of the HMRC. And the worst of it is, it looks very much like, doesn't it, that sometimes we just go after the low-hanging fruit. It's easy to chase these people rather than chase the people that promoted these schemes and put them in this trouble in the first place. And everyone has said, and I'm going to say it too, these are people. When they came to see me first, I didn't know very much about this, but when people came to see me in my constituency and they told me, and they talked about the figures that they might have to pay, it was devastating. I couldn't believe what they have been told might happen to them. And I thought, what if that was me? If someone came to me and said, you owe tens of thousands of pounds, well, frankly, I would have no way of doing that without a significant change to my life. Well, fine. Maybe if I deserved it, I would have that coming. But if they didn't know that, why would their lives have to change so much, where some of them have now felt that their lives were no longer worth living? Madam Deputy Speaker, driving people to bankruptcy is not, in my opinion, the answer. What we should be doing is finding out how this happened, discovering who is culpable, including HMRC. I will.
I'm grateful for the honourable member for giving way. Does he agree with me it would be a clear injustice if anybody innocently caught up of having sought advice for one of these schemes were to lose their main home or indeed be made bankrupt as a result of this action?
It would be an absolute tragedy, and I think that is why I think that I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for bringing this debate here today, so that we can air it publicly in the way that we're doing. Because if anyone is made bankrupt from something which is not of their deliberate doing, then that would be a travesty. Madam Deputy Speaker, I don't propose to take very much more time. I know there's a lot of people waiting to speak, but it's not a great ask for the Minister today to pause this, to review it independently, and give my constituents and everyone else in this House a bit of respite so that they know that what's happened to them is right.
Ruth Cadbury.